Okay.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Katie. Thanks, Jason.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Dunn. I got my undergraduate degree from Notre Dame in finance and went into commercial real estate from Notre Dame on the finance side. First working for commercial mortgage brokers and then moving on to the lending side, where I've spent the majority of my career. During the downturn in 2008, when the world blew up, I took that opportunity to go back to grad school, and that's where I got introduced to the Goldie Initiative and was a Goldie Scholar, one of the very early Goldie Scholars. The program's grown and changed tremendously since then. And then now I'm back on the lending side in doing commercial real estate loans for CIBC. We're a Canadian or Toronto-based bank, but have a significant US presence, especially as it relates to real estate. My specific role is in underwriting and asset management. So I do loans across the country, mostly multifamily, industrial, retail, and office, but all across the country. Some of my largest clients that I directly work with are Blackstone, Starwood, Carlisle, and others. So all the big names that you've heard of. The most exciting deal I've worked on the past couple of years was the largest transaction ever done when Blackstone bought Global Logistics Properties last year for over $18 billion. I was a part of the financing, and I ran that entire project for CIBC in the financing of one of their biggest portfolios for that. So I can answer any questions on the lending side and talk a little bit about that. But that's where my experience really lies.
Great, thanks, Katie. Colleen, would you like to introduce yourself? Colleen Quirk.
Sure. Hi, Colleen Quirk. I actually just graduated with my MBA this year, so I miss it already. And I got into real estate when I went to law school and graduated in 2009, when there was not a lot of stuff going on with real estate. But when I was in school part-time during the evening, I worked during the day at Chicago Title in their national commercial division. So realized that I kind of liked it. I didn't know what kind of law I wanted to practice after I was done, but I really liked the collaborative efforts that I saw, the transactional organization that went into doing a deal, and thought that, real estate law would probably be a good thing to do. Graduated in 2009. There really wasn't much going on, and I didn't think I would stay in title insurance, but had an opportunity to do that. So fast forward, I went and got my MBA, starting 2 years ago, because I felt myself getting more. I wasn't practicing law. I was really more in the business end of things, and was really glad that I did that. But I am still in title insurance. I never made the move to the law firm, but my Notre Dame education has been instrumental in bolstering the business side of things, and my law degree has also been very helpful.
Great, thanks, Colleen. Christina Flanders, would you like to give a brief intro on yourself?
All right, hey everyone, Christina Flanders, undergrad from Notre Dame, class of 2015, Lewis Hall. It was supposed to be my 5-year reunion this year. Something happened, but looking forward to that happening at some point as well. My path out of Notre Dame started like a lot of people's, I think. Went into investment banking, did the whole finance thing, pivoted into corporate strategy at a tech company, and now I'm getting my MBA from Chicago Booth. I just finished my first year, so I have another year left. And that also means that I'm a current Goldie Scholar, so happy to answer any questions about what the program has been like so far. And Colleen and I have overlapped for 1 year, which was awesome. My path into real estate was a little bit more of a zigzag, as you could tell. My parents, when I was growing up, would invest in their own rental properties. And, I saw that as an investment method, but also somewhat as a side hustle as well. And I thought the only careers in the space were for brokers and people who would show houses to others, which I'm sure is what a lot of people ask you about, like to, tell people how much their house is worth. But, happy to answer any questions about that and also about investing in your own portfolio.
Great. Thanks for those intros. So we started talking a little bit with our panelists about how they got into real estate. Everyone kind of fell into it. It's not really one of those careers where you say, oh, I'm going to, pursue this, that, and the other, and then, be CEO of JLL. It's very much a curvy path. And a lot of that is about who you know and how you leverage your networks. So let's talk a little bit with our panelists about how their Notre Dame connections got them on that path or helped them along the way. So your degree from Notre Dame, as well as perhaps your master's degree, talk a little bit about that, how that helped you launch your career, and considering all of the degree options out there, how the Notre Dame degree has moved you along a successful path in commercial real estate. So let's start with you, Katie.
Okay. So I have two stories, so I'll try and make it quick. The first is I actually did know I wanted to go into real estate. Both of my parents were in real estate. My mom was on the residential side and my dad was on the commercial side. And I grew up working for his company, answering the phones, sorting the mail, stuffing, leasing flyers. So I knew I wanted to be on the financial side of real estate because I liked math, but I had no idea what that really meant. And so when I graduated, I didn't have a job. There was one real estate company that came and recruited at Notre Dame, and it was to be a leasing broker. And they were I think the salary they offered me was $18,000 a year, which I could not live in Chicago at the time. So a family friend who also went to Notre Dame, a friend of my dad's, set me up with a bunch of interviews. And this is 1995. So this is before Google Maps, no cell phones, nothing. And I literally went to his office and he drew me a map and I had appointments all over Chicagoland with banks and finance people and real estate people. I think I had 5 interviews in one day. So the last one I had was with another Notre Dame grad. And the minute I walked in the door, he said, I don't have a job for you, but I'm meeting with you because John asked me to. So let's just chat. So we just chatted and I really liked him. I thought the business that he was in was super interesting. But I never thought anything would come of it. He said, I have a couple other people I'll introduce you to, but who knows? But I don't have anything for you. So a week later, he calls me up and he says, all right, I liked you a lot. You remind me of somebody else I know. I'm going to give you a shot. So that's how I got my job, was all the Notre Dame connection. And then another story I have is, and Jason and Gino know all these people involved in this story, but I was working at Merrill Lynch as a lender. Tom Hoban, who was a friend of mine from my class, was a principal at a firm called Kitson, and they were buying a 10-property retail portfolio, all based in Florida, all grocery store anchored stuff. And it was about a $300 million acquisition. Oh, no, it was more than that. It was probably $350 million acquisition. They were looking for a $275 million loan. And they came to me and they would have probably shown it to Merrill Lynch anyway, but it came to me because of my relationship with Tom. And on the other side, on Tom's side, on the equity side, he had money from Mesref, where Mike Quinn was working. And they also had money from the Evergreen funds where Chris Wallace was working. So this was a very highly competitive deal, both from the purchase and from the debt side. But my big advantage was I had calls into the other equity partners who were very big parts of the decision-making process. And that Notre Dame connection and having all of us be Notre Dame and be able to look each other in the eye and say, we're going to get this deal done together, was everything. And so we won that deal and it was a huge, huge success. And, so that was a huge, huge deal for me at the time. It was the largest deal I had ever done. and was great for me in boosting my career at Merrill.
Great. Thanks, Katie. At the Goldie Initiative, we are always talking about networking and utilizing the people in our network to help us along our career path. It's a crucial part of who we are as an organization, and we really promote the ideas of tapping into those connections, whether it's the Goldie Initiative or your alumni network or other kinds of networks that you have within your professional sphere. Tap into them. Don't be afraid, because as Katie exemplified, it's important to make getting deals done oftentimes. So Christina, do you want to talk a little bit about how you've used that network to get to where you are in your commercial real estate career path right now?
For sure. The Notre Dame network is something else. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. I'm sure when you talk to alums, they're super excited to talk to you. They'll do the usual, right? Ask you what you're studying, ask you what dorm you're in, what you want to do. And there's that instant connection, right? So that's something that you have to be aware that you're super lucky to have. I mentioned to you earlier that I wish that I had known that commercial real estate existed as a career path when I was at Notre Dame. But it was actually through talking to some alums that I found out that this industry existed. It was, when I was doing my networking to find out whether or not I wanted to attend business school, when I met with some Notre Dame alums who happened to work in the industry, and it opened a whole new world for me. And a quick word on mentorship. One of my mentors at Notre Dame, he works at the investment office. He and I have known each other for almost 6 years now, and we talk almost every 2 to 3 months, maybe at least. We click really well. I bounce ideas off of him. Very down to earth. You know that he's got your best interests at heart. So if you guys know somebody like that, I would encourage you to hold on to them for dear life, because that having a valuable mentor and a good friend all in one is something that you're going to want to keep for the rest of your life. So you're surrounded by wonderful people who are going to want to help you. You should really use that.
That's great advice. Thanks, Christina. Colleen, did you want to add anything in about your networking as far as Notre Dame network connections or the Goldie Initiative or
Sure.
your law school experience?
Yeah, I think the networking just in general, I can tell, I've only been a graduate of my program for a month, but it is so how strong the alumni network is at Notre Dame. So I've already had individuals who, in between that and the Goldie Initiative, it's kind of like having that thing, whatever that thing is that you can identify with. And I identify with both. And with the Goldie Initiative, I've been able to reach out and ask individuals. We have this program, it's Mentorship Rocket, where it's not an actual mentor, but it's someone who's put their name out to say, hey, I'm a subject matter expert in this. And I've reached out to individuals who have helped me through, right now I'm in charge of marketing and HR and strategy initiatives. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with marketing. Like, I'm an attorney. I'm not, not a marketer by trade, but, and so I was able to reach out to someone who was associated with the Goldie Initiative, and he has been instrumental. I think that you will always be pleasantly surprised to see how much people really want to help. You just have to ask.
Great. Yeah, that's really good advice, Colleen. Shifting gears, let's stick with you, Colleen, because we're going to talk a little bit about different career types in commercial real estate. A lot of people, as was alluded to by Christina, they think it's all about the brokers. And while we all know that the brokers are the ones who kind of do the deals, there's so many other paths that lead to success in commercial real estate and can provide opportunities for leadership in commercial real estate. So let's talk a little bit, shifting gears, about types of business operations that you work in the real estate industry that perhaps students aren't aware exist. So Colleen, why don't we build on your story and start with you.
Sure. Nobody knows that title insurance is a thing. Nobody really knows what it is. I have to tell people like, that, no, it's not casualty insurance. It's not the same thing. It's title insurance. It's totally different, but it is essential. You cannot do a deal without it. And if you have a bad title insurance company that you're working with, it can kill the deal. It can absolutely kill the deal. So that trust is like essential. But so I'm going to give a plug for the title insurance industry. It is really, because it's so under the radar, there's not like, we're looking for talent. And you can really go a lot further than, than maybe being like one of a million brokers. I'm putting a lot more of a dent, I think, in my company, near North Title Group than I could at a big firm or, or a different organization that was, maybe more mainstream in real estate. But Natasha asked, what did you want to know? What do you wish you knew before you joined or before you got involved in real estate? It was, I wish I would have known just the different types of opportunities that are out there, the different, knowing that it's not just brokers and lawyers and developers, but there's, all of these ancillary services. Megan is in real estate, and she is, she works with a foundation, a scholarship foundation. Like there are so many other things, like a lot of my clients are companies that you won't think of real estate when you think of them. Like, I would do a lot of work with Walmart, with, Hyatt, with like universities. You don't think real estate when you think of them, but hospitals, they all have real estate. So don't pigeonhole yourself to think I need to look at real estate, a real estate company. There are so many companies out there that have real estate components to their operations.
Great. Yes, that is very true. Thank you, Colleen. That was a good intro into the topic. Katie, in finance, tell us about how that career path might not be so obvious as far as real estate, but how it is integral to making it all go down. Is Katie frozen?
For the bill.
Katie, are you there? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Katie
I think Katie's frozen.
I think Katie's frozen. Okay. We'll wait for Katie to unfreeze, and why don't we? Oh, there she goes. Go ahead. Start over.
Sorry.
Frozen for a minute.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
There you go. There she is.
What it started to say again?
Yeah, say it again.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Sorry. I'll try and make it quick, but the finance side, everybody needs a loan for their real estate to buy commercial real estate. Doesn't make sense for your returns to be 100% cash. So that's where I come in. And the thing that I've always really liked about it is that real estate is, yes, it's about a building or a property type or something, a certain location, whatever, but it's really a people business. And you have so many people need to come together to make a real estate deal happen. I have to deal with title people all the time, like Colleen. I have to deal with lawyers. I deal with surveyors. I deal with property managers. I deal with brokers. I deal with appraisers. I deal with engineers. And the thing that I always say to people is, if you like real estate, you can find something that fits your skill set and your personality type that you can do and be successful in this industry, because there's something for everybody here. If there's so many different opportunities, and as a lender, I get to see all those things and watch all the people come together and together this deal. And it's when you have that, those people. Am I still?
Katie, you're fading out a little bit. There you are. Let's we'll go on to Christina, and then maybe you can reconnect your internet connection or dial in with the phone. Sometimes that helps. Let's talk with Christina. Talk a little bit about the investment management, asset management aspect of real estate. That's very popular right now as a career path in commercial real estate. We see a lot of business school students wanting to go into that. And I see Molly's joined. So after we hear from Christina, we'll hear from a little bit from Molly. Christina, if you could just tell us a little bit about the investment management side of the real estate business.
For sure. And to echo what's already been said, there really is something for every personality type within real estate. So if you like the asset level, if you like walking through buildings and trying to figure out whether or not it's something that you would want to have in a portfolio, you might want to get a little more involved with acquisitions or real estate private equity. Maybe you like seeing things being built from the ground upward. But if you're not really somebody who likes being right there on the asset, maybe you like being more in an office environment and trying to figure out how individual assets play into a broader portfolio. There's a lot of investment management opportunities. You can think the Notre Dame Endowment, for example, is trying to grow its allocation toward real estate. Other pension funds are trying to do something similar. There's also property management. So this is more, sure, you have to deal with the asset, but also working with tenants, working with leases. There are always a lot of good stories that come out of that. But it's also a function of what your risk tolerance is, right? So we all heard about what happened in 2008. There are boom and bust cycles in absolutely every industry, and real estate's no different. But I think asset management and sometimes property management as well is a little bit more defensive. It's a lot less focused on, we're going to eat when times are good and starve when times are bad, but it's a little bit more stable. And I think if that's something that suits your personality, definitely something to look into.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Molly Phelan joined us. She's on the board of directors with the Goldie Initiative, and she's, again, a Notre Dame alum. Molly, we did not have a chance to show your intro video. Can you just introduce yourself and just talk briefly about your career path into commercial real estate? You're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Molly Phelan, and I am a 1994 undergrad from Notre Dame. I had received my law degree from Loyola University in Chicago. I am currently the managing partner for the Chicago office of Siegel Jennings. We are a national property tax law firm representing institutional grade investors and triple net occupiers of real estate throughout the United States. I am a recovering commercial real estate broker. After graduating and doing a couple of years of non-for-profit and teaching, I entered into the world of office tenant representation. It was a difficult position. And one of the reasons why I joined the Goldie Initiative is because I was under the impression that there was just the path of being either a leasing agent or a tenant rep. There was not really in the mid 1990s, a lot of exposure to different things, especially since I had a government degree with a politics, philosophy, and economics concentration. So I didn't have a finance background. I couldn't jump into one of those positions without going to graduate school. In addition to that, at that time, the real only graduate program was out of Wisconsin and Madison. There was no, e-learning or anything like that. And I wasn't willing to move from Chicago to Madison for 2 years. So the best thing is that I've taken all of my experiences from teaching, from my commercial real estate, from being a business development person, and now am one of the top property tax attorneys in the city of Chicago, because I've been able to really garner from all the experiences that I had to really fit into something that I had avoided for a lot of my life. My dad was a property tax attorney. Initially got into this field by working with my family, but now I'm doing this on a national level, and it's a great experience. One of the things that I had said in my introduction that I provided earlier, the one thing that I hope everybody can get from our talk today is the value of a network. And as people who are pursuing undergraduate or graduate degrees right now, especially from Notre Dame, you have such a valuable network at Notre Dame right now. One of the reasons why I joined the Goldie board was to help grow the network within Chicago to help put qualified women in corner offices in commercial real estate. The University of Notre Dame is legendary for its network. Start using it now, contribute to it now, and if you do that at this part of your career, 10, 15 years from now, you will see tremendous rewards.
Great. Thanks, Molly. Hopefully you'll get to know Molly a little bit more. We'll ask one more question about relationship building, and we've touched on this, networking, using your network to connect to first jobs and whatnot. Talk a little bit more about how networking and relationship building, it's such a people, as Katie said, it's such a people business. Let's hear some more stories from you. I think it's always helpful to hear about specific stories where, maybe your skills in finance or law, didn't come to play, but that relationship and trust was the most important piece to helping you advance in some way. Christina, let's start with you and your story about your internship this summer.
Sure thing. So I had an internship lined up at a real estate consulting firm here in Chicago back in about March, and then COVID hit and everything stopped. I was not the only person to have gotten my internship canceled. I know a lot of other people who did, but you work for a long time. You talk to a lot of different people. You get this thing set up. You think you're done, and then you get thrown right back into it. So I ended up sending an email immediately to Megan and Kelsey at the Goldie Initiative, telling them what happened. And they forwarded on my resume to pretty much the entire network of the Goldie Initiative. And I was immediately getting emails from all these different people, some of whom I didn't even know, but who recognized me simply because I was a Goldie scholar. And I had a lot of great conversations out of that. Ended up finding something for the summer, no big deal. I'm actually doing a really cool project with Brookfield. It's pretty much my dream project. I couldn't be happier. But even the day after I signed the contract to work on that, I even got a different offer from somebody through the Goldie Initiative. So when you have a network and you have the opportunity to create those relationships with people, you absolutely should take the opportunity to do so and really give back as much as you can, because you never know when the favor is going to be returned to you.
Great. Good story. I know part of the reason we're all here is because internships have been lost this summer, and students are looking for ways to stay connected and start building those relationships in lieu of some of those internships that have been shortened, canceled, that kind of thing. So great story. Thanks, Christina. Katie, are you feeling confident to share a little more with your connection? Let's give it a try. Talking about building trust.
I mean, I touched on that before with my story of the financing that I did earlier. So maybe I'll just leave it at that and let somebody else talk. I'm trying to figure out how to dial in, but it's not working. Sorry for my bad connections.
Sarah, maybe you can send Katie the dial-in info privately. That'd be great. Okay, so let's move on. Molly, why don't you talk about I know you have a story about meeting with a competitor and the idea of trust. Why don't you touch on the building of trust as a skill that you would see students pursue as professionals in this industry?
A lot of people don't necessarily think it is a valuable thing to be networking with your competitors. And that's one of the things that happens in commercial real estate. You're going after the same properties. You know, everybody wants to have a better strategy, and, you know, is it, you know, do you want to share the secret sauce, so to speak? But very recently I had an interesting situation where a friend of mine who is also a property tax attorney here in Chicago, he works for a bigger national law firm. They don't do property tax on a national basis. But the more important thing is that they couldn't get their entire law firm from this one international client needed to get bonded. Therefore, every single attorney in the law firm would have had to get bonded. They were too big. It didn't make any sense for them to specifically get bonded for this client. Point being, he's now referred me to this enormous international real estate firm that is, they're going to use us because he was confident in me. He knew that I wasn't going to take the relationship completely away from him, but he also knew that I could do the job, and he liked me. It's the know, like, trust, right? And this is something that you may not get at a very early age when you're going through just getting your feet wet in the corporate world. But you're going to rise through the ranks if people know you, they like you, and they trust you. And building that trust is a really, really crucial thing. You have to put yourself out there to earn it, but you still have to follow through in what you say you're going to do. And so work on those as an underlying aspect of your career development. Get people in your company to know you, get people in your company to like you and trust you, but do that with your competitors as well. Because what may happen one day is there's going to be an opportunity, and if somebody knows you, likes you, and trusts you, they're actually going to pick you versus putting it out to market. They're going to know that you're the specific person for that job. And always put yourself up to those tasks to build that credibility, because it can be lost very quickly. And the more you can build it up, the higher or the faster rise you're going to have. But it was a really big honor to have somebody who I compete with to, you know, put me in such a tremendous position, and I'm honored for it. And I would have done the same thing for him as well. But those are the relationships that you want to create. And I'm sure Katie's had situations like that. I'm sure Colleen's had situations like that with competitors where, you know, maybe for the most part, you know, you're kind of elbowing each other to try to get business, but you still want to maintain friends throughout the industry.
Great. Thanks, Molly. Colleen, do you want to share a little bit about the chain of command and how you see the idea of building relationships is important to your line of work?
Sure. You know, I think a lot of relationship building, you know, is talked about in the context of getting a job or getting clients. And that is, I think, absolutely important. But there's the other, it's almost, it's relationship building while you build your brand. When you're dealing with either vendors or people within your organization, basically I need to get approvals on a lot of different things. And what I will usually do is if I know the answer that I want, I will build this, you know, I will set up the scenario, I will give it to the person who I need approval from on a silver platter so that they can just kind of bless it and say, yeah, that's fine. And I've been able to build my brand and network among these individuals such that after a while, if I do it and I get to know them, you know, it's these people I'm going to over and over again, they then will just bless me through. They will, they probably have stopped reading my very, very organized and articulate and obsessive emails, I'm sure. But because they don't, they're like, yep, I trust you. Sounds good. If you think that's what we should do, let's do it. And it's building that building that trust and that network of individuals who you either need their approval or you need something from them as far as like when you get into being a manager as well. I think that's also, that those people are your network as well. And I think that building your brand among your network is really helpful.
Great, thanks, Colleen. And one of the things that the Goldie Initiative is really focused on is building personal brand. We have students who attend a variety of graduate programs, and we are exclusive to graduate school at the Goldie Initiative. Law, business, masters in real estate. But one thing that not so many of them, there are programs that do touch on personal brand, but it is really a focus for the Goldie Initiative, culminating with opportunities to practice a elevator speech, as we call it, a personal value statement with pretty high-ranking Chicago businesswoman, Penny Pritzker. Some of you may have heard of her. She provides our scholars with an opportunity to pitch their personal brand every year, which is a very exciting element of our program. So personal brand is huge. So make sure you're thinking about that when you're going out there in the industry. Give them something to remember you by. Have that stamp of this is me and this is what I can offer. Okay, we'll go on to one more topic, the topic of risk, because risk is definitely an issue when you're working in real estate, from serving as a broker on 100% commission to getting involved personally in deals. Let's hear from our panelists a little bit about how risk factors in and any advice you can provide on taking risks in a career in commercial real estate. Molly, do you want to take this one first?
Sure. I think the most important thing is to put yourself out there to take those risks. You may fail. I have done numerous things in my career. I tried to be a commercial real estate broker in the tenant rep space. I wasn't good at it. I learned a lot, but I also learned that I wasn't good at it. I went into business development for some startup companies, hopes of becoming a multimillionaire for the next big .com that, it had an IPO. I took a chance, but you know what? Those were chances that I calculated in my 20s. I didn't have a family that I needed to support. I took those risks. In 2008, I started doing some community work in Chicago, going up against a local alderman. And then in 2011, I ran for alderman in Chicago. Got into a runoff. I lost. Fortunately, I lost because it gave me so much experience in understanding the ins and outs of Chicago politics. And because I'm a property tax attorney, so many of the issues that I took the lead on were real estate development issues, tax issues. It put me out there. The loss that I had in taking that risk actually turned out to be an outstanding gain for me because I got my face out there. People knew that I understood the issues that were facing Chicago, issues that were facing real estate developers in Chicago, and it built a lot of trust with people. So don't think of taking a risk as something that it's a win or lose. There's always something that you're going to get from taking that risk. And it's the people who don't take risks that are never going to climb that ladder. So don't be afraid. Also, find a mentor who's going to coach you on those risks. Take the calculated risks, and while you're young, take the biggest risks possible. I didn't go to law school until I was 30, okay? I spent a lot of time in my 20s taking risks, and I built up my resume of things that I learned, and I finally was able to put all the pieces together in my 30s. And it's fine. Don't feel like you got to hit it out of the park the first time, but at least put yourself on home plate to take the swing. That's it.
Love all the baseball references. Wish we could be going to games, go Cubs.
Right.
Colleen, did you want to add anything on taking risks?
You know, I'm actually kind of in the middle of a risk that I took right now. And I think you're never like, once you've gone through something that you maybe thought was a little bit, a little scary or a little risky, I think as soon as you make the decision to do it and you're in the middle of it, it's, you know, it's kind of no big deal. You know, it's more the trepidation beforehand than it is going through it. And I took a risk of going back to school. And I moved from, I was the director of the National Commercial Division, realized that there were several elements at my company. We were growing way too fast and we needed some foundational shoring up. And so I stepped out of that position and into a administrator role where I really, marketing is not my background. HR is not my background. Strategy, I can do strategy, but I'm in the middle of this. I went back to school so that I could bolster my skills, my technical skills, my leadership skills. I invested in myself. And so it's playing out right now. I can't imagine that, as Molly said, like, I'm not going to, like, even if you lose, you don't lose because you have the experience of going through something that was difficult or challenging. And I think that in and of itself is worth it.
Megan, can I jump on that too?
Sure.
One of the things that especially women don't do a lot of is putting themselves up for a challenge. There's been many studies where women feel like, if there's a job opportunity, we feel like we've got to check all the boxes before we put our hat in the ring for that. And I think everybody, I hope everybody understands that you're not always going to check those boxes. The most important thing that you need in terms of putting yourself out there for a new challenge or a new position is the confidence that you can learn how to do it. And that's really what you have to focus on. Don't think that you need to know everything, but put yourself out there. Sure, there might be somebody more qualified, but if you show that you have more passion for that position, if you have more passion for that project, they're going to give it to you. So never, ever hold yourself back just because you don't check all the boxes.
Good advice. Christina, did you want to share anything on risk? And Katie, if you have something to add?
Sure. And for what it's worth, I think the city of Chicago would have been far better off if Molly had actually been elected to alderman, but that's just my opinion.
Well, that's why I'm really thankful that I didn't get the job. I don't know if anybody can fix it. But.
As for risk, I think one of the least risky things you can do in life is to ask for what you actually want. And it'll feel weird kind of putting yourself out there. I think we're taught to not step on toes. I think we're taught to be very polite, which are all good things. But every so often when you're trying to make a connection with somebody, you don't have a lot of time. And, you don't want to just be another person that this person has met. Sometimes you just actually have to ask for what's on your mind. So I'll give you an example. Megan was talking about the pitch with Penny Pritzker that all the Goldie scholars do. And, you make pretty much a 2-minute elevator speech about yourself, kind of talk about your personal brand a little bit, where you want to go in life. And I ended up asking Penny Pritzker for a summer internship. Now, did I get a summer internship from her? No. But did it feel great, A, to get my name out there, B, to take, I guess, ostensibly what would be a risk, and what would the downside be? Well, I mean, she could walk away and never talk to me again, which could actually happen. But the upside is, okay, if she has a spot that she knows of and she's impressed by that, then okay, I get a summer internship with a really well-known and well-respected family office. So every so often, I think it's good practice to, when you meet with somebody, be candid about what you want and where you want to go and how you intend to get there. and be very aware of how you can bring value to that relationship, and be very forthcoming about it. I think people appreciate when you're honest with both yourself and with them. And I think in certain business transactions, it's definitely refreshing.
Great. Thanks, Christina. And I don't think Penny Pritzker will ever forget you. So that was definitely a good move on your part. Katie, did you have anything to add on risk before we get into maybe some Q&A from the participants?
I'll just add one thing. I'm sorry that I'm frozen. You guys all look great in your frozen states that I can see, but I'm on my phone now, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah.
But just to jump on, in terms of taking risks, take them. Absolutely, no question, take them. But in this day and age, you can be super educated before you actually take that risk. So use your network, talk to people, do the research on the internet, go try and get some experience in doing what you want to do. So there's no reason to not be educated. And the more, when you go into that, like when Christina goes into that meeting with Penny Pritzker, I'm sure that she walks in there knowing everything about Penny Pritzker that she could find, knowing everything about her business, and made an educated pitch to be an intern in her office. So in those kind of situations, you got to know as much as possible when you're going into the situation.
Really good advice, and we can hear you very well now, Katie, so thanks for dialing in. We're going to end our hour with a lightning round, but before we do that, and just for our panelists, don't forget, the lightning round question will be, what advice would you give to your younger self, if you haven't thought about that yet? Do we have any other questions from the participants? We did hear from Natasha about advice on anything you wish you had known before you entered the CRE industry. That's one question we received. I know some of you touched on that. Would anyone like to answer that? And if you have other questions, feel free to type them into the chat. Any response, anything you wish you had known before you entered the industry?
I think I
I'll
touched
jump
on.
in, Megan.
Go ahead, Katie.
So thanks, Christina. So Natasha, the thing that I would say is that like sort of what I touched on before, that there's something for everybody, and there's so many different roles. So think about what you like, what strikes you as interesting, what's going to keep your attention, what's going to keep you motivated, and then apply that to the real estate function that you choose. Because I recently was on listening to a presentation, and the way that people were talking about things that, there's a lot of things that you do in your job, in your day job, that will be draining for you. You'll dread them. So if you can try and find the things that you get excited about, that you're excited to wake up during the day and like attack that part of the project, focus on those kinds of things. So trying to find the things that energize you rather than drain you is really key. And then find a partner, find a team, find the people that can do the things that you find draining, they might be energized by. So get in those kinds of teams and those kinds of partnerships where everybody can suit each other.
That's great advice. That's really good. Christina, did you have something you wanted to add on the topic?
Katie touched on everything, and people are so willing and excited to help. So if you are curious about any particular thing that you heard, there's going to be someone out there who is willing to sit down and have a coffee chat with you, so you can ask them any question whatsoever. People want to help you, so don't be afraid to reach out.
Megan, if I could just, my live, erase it. Okay. one quick story about me and my first job in commercial real estate is I did 3 informational interviews before I got placed with Mesro Financial. I had an interview with somebody from Notre Dame. They didn't have a job at their place. They introduced me to 3 people. Neither of those 3 people had a job, but then it was my 3rd informational interview where somebody said, you know, I think we've got something where you'll fit. And that's really how I got my first job in commercial real estate. Your first job is not your last job. Always remember that. And you can work the network just like Christina did, just like I did, to get yourself in a really good, stable job, just through networking. You don't need a recruiter. You don't need anything like that. You guys have a built-in organization that is going to get you a great job when you guys are ready to have it. So use the network, feed it, treat it just like a growing little flower, and it will pay you great rewards. And I think we left, did we lose Megan? Okay, Sarah, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to email her and see where she went. I'm sure it was an internet issue. But I think this has all been awesome advice. I mean, does anyone else have any other questions? Or I know sometimes students ask, like, is there anything specific or any skills that or courses that you wish that you took when you were an undergrad that you think would have benefited you in your career?
I can't think of anything, and they didn't really have anything. So
Yeah, I mean, in the 90s, they had 0 real estate classes. I mean, I probably would have taken a finance class. That's the only thing that I could think of. But, you know, again, I was in the arts and letters program. I didn't have anything. I mean, as an arts and letters person, economics was like the most mathy thing you could do, right? So, mathy.
Hi, everyone. I'm back. I lost my internet. Okay. I think I missed the last couple of minutes, but we're getting close to the end here. So I like to wrap up these sessions with a lightning round on what advice would you give to your younger self? And this can be about pretty much just about anything. So why don't we start with you, Katie? What advice would you give to your younger self?
I actually gave this advice to another Goldie scholar when I had an informational call with her a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to say the same thing, which is trust your own gut. And, you know, I'm the type of person, I talk to my mom, I talk to my dad, I talk to my sister, I talk to my best friend, I talk to the dog about what I should do and what I ask everybody their opinion. And I think as I've gotten older, the thing I've learned is that my gut and my intuition, I know myself best. So to listen to that and not you don't need to listen to everybody else because you know what's going to make you happy. You know yourself, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. So decisions have been made when I've really trusted myself, and I've definitely taken some risks that other people were not supportive of, like my initial move to New York. My family was very sad that I was leaving Chicago and breaking up the family, but it worked out amazingly. It's been the greatest thing I did and totally set me off in my career. So I think trusting myself is the biggest thing, and I would highly encourage you guys to really take the time to listen to yourself.
Great. Christina, you have anything you want to tell your younger self?
I'd tell my younger self not to just follow the crowd. I think my decision to go into investment banking largely was because A, I didn't really know what else was out in the world, and B, it sounded like the people who were mathy and who wanted to have a good career in business were either going into banking or consulting. So I think that decision was largely due to my inability to do a lot of my own research and to make that decision for myself. So I would say, you know, if you guys are in that position, you should trust your gut a little more, do a little bit more research, and see if there's a way to blaze your own trail so that you are more happy and better set up, want to do later in life, earlier than when I was.
Okay. Colleen, you want to give advice to your younger self?
There's been so much good stuff already. My thing would just be really small, and that's don't be afraid to engage with on the same level with your superiors, like up into like the CEO of an organization, because I think I was, when I was first starting out, I was like, why would that person want to talk to me? But now, when I have newer, younger people talking to me and they have this confidence, I am like so blown away. And I'm kind of an introvert anyway. So, but I would just, don't be afraid to reach out to really people who you might be intimidated by in your own organization.
Great. And Molly, any advice to your younger self?
Learn the value of giving to your network. I think a lot of people think of networking as, I'm going to be involved with this organization, that organization, and, I'm going to meet these contacts. They're going to give me business, or they're going to give me leads and stuff. That's not how you build a network. That's not how you create value. You have to put in, you have to offer things. It's very, very important. Again, getting back to the know, like, trust, that people think of you as somebody who's there to contribute, not just receive. So be passionate about things. Don't ever just do something because you think it's gonna, get you something. Do it because you care about it. And then people will see that, and that will help you with your network. But, you've got Irish Compass, you've got LinkedIn, you've got so many things. Feed it. When you talk to somebody, have a conversation and ask them about them, what's going on in here, because a lot of times they just want somebody to talk to. Think about everything that's going on right now. It's crazy. And everybody's kind of holding it together, but every once in a while, somebody would just be like, yeah, it has been nuts having the kids at home. It has been nuts trying to manage my staff from, while we're social distancing. Even some like words of support, that's you giving something. And as long as you're sincere about it, and as long as you are putting yourself out there in a caring manner, you're going to build that network. You can be connected to everybody in the Notre Dame Alumni Association through LinkedIn and through Irish Compass, but you're going to build a relationship by having conversations like that. And do that early and do it often. Don't just have that once with somebody. Make it part of your week to touch base with people. And continue those conversations and continue those relationships. My husband, who Katie knows, he's amazing with doing that. He is best friends with everybody that he's ever met in his entire life, and I'm not kidding. And it's just an act.
He is not kidding. Absolutely not kidding. He is. I think he truly is.
Is he also a Notre Dame alum?
No, he's a Kansas graduate,
Okay.
but he's a huge Notre Dame fan. I'll put it that way. So anyways, he was acting like a little schoolgirl when he met Chris Zorich at one of my reunions. So it's a totally different story for a different day. But just be generous to other people, and they will be generous back to you.
Great. I'm sure that those are words to wrap up on, and very in tune with Notre Dame's values. So I think we're at a good stopping point. I want to thank Sarah and Gino and Jason for having us, and all our panelists, Christina Flanders, Molly Phelan, Colleen Quirk, and Katie Dunn. And thank you for the opportunity. And I encourage you to check out the Goldie Initiative and what we're all about. And we'll wrap up. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. Just thank you so much for your time and for your energy in planning this and putting this together. We really appreciate it.
Sarah, Gino, Jason, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Don't hesitate.
Everybody. Yeah, reach out if you guys need anything.
Thank you. Bye-bye.